movies I saw were Wuthering Heights, William Wyler, and I don't know why. It was in a revival, little, third, fourth run, whatever it was. And then the second one or third was Pinocchio. And they were both very convulsive and dark. I remember only storms on the first one, and of course I've seen it since, but on the second one I had the distinct feeling that finally I'd seen childhood portrayed in the way I felt it. And I thought, this is how scary it feels for me to be a child, as opposed to all the sanitized stuff.
Yeah.
So it was something that through the years we spoke about. The funny thing is, most of my movies, I've been trying to decipher my father. I have a huge interest in fathers and sons and all that. And my mom just passed away, and I realized all along the question for me was my mother.
Wow.
And I was just distracted by these other things. And it is, a very, very sort of naked moment right now, emotionally. With this movie, with her, with my dad. It was a good time to do it.
Yeah.
She could not see it completely, but she knew what it meant, and she gave me Pinocchios along the years.
Yeah.
And she gave me one good Pinocchio. The others were a little bit. She gave me a great Pinocchio.
I want to ask the rest of the panel, I assume you've all seen the original Pinocchio. Did it register with you? Stop motion interested you as a child as well?
Well, I started with stop motion. Second or third short I did on Super 8 around age 9 or 10 was a stop motion animation. I was already a fan of Harryhausen and all that. I taught animation in high school. I was 17 to kids that were younger than me. I founded a company that I had for 10 years that did stop motion and make effects. And I was supposed to, my first movie was not going to be Kronos. It was a stop motion movie called Omnivore. And we built over 100 puppets and sets and all that. And one night we went for dinner, and we came back and we had been burglarized. And the burglars, not finding anything of value, decided to dance a lambada on the puppets. And then they defecated and peed, which I took as a sign to take a live action career. And for a long time now I've been returning to my first love. I started producing and supervising at DreamWorks. We did 3 series, 12 Hunters, Tales of Arcadia. We did a lot of things, and Pinocchio we've been with since the very early 2000s with this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you want to, why was this Pinocchio something that so you had to do it?
To me, the two figures that define me biographically, and I always say I don't have a filmography, I have a biography, is the picture of Frankenstein and Pinocchio. And they are, by the way, very similar tales. and they do define me. And I wanted to do a Pinocchio that was basically counter to everything I thought about the fable. I wanted to make it about disobedience as a virtue, about not having to change to be loved, which I think is terrifying. When we say to someone, he'll change, it's horrible. Love them or leave them, says I. And also, if you notice in the film, everybody changes through Pinocchio being a pure entity. And finally, a movie about fathers and sons, where the father learns. The cricket is basically useless, but he gains a good heart. He becomes really emotional. Starts like this intellectual and all that, etc., etc. And we planned it as a stories of fathers and sons, Ballpen, Spazzatura, Podestan, his son, Candlewick, Geppetto and Pinocchio, and even Jesus and his father. Jesus had a very demanding father.
Now this is such a big, huge undertaking. I mean, you had collaborators, some of which are here. I mean, let's start with co-director. Why did you want a co-director, and why did you pick Mark?
I
didn't want one. But
every day was a learning experience. I've admired Mark forever. I mean, when I was studying the work of Will Vinton, and we were doing claymation in my company, he was, a figure we looked up, which dates him very heavily. But I think that the important thing is, through the course of more than a decade and a half, I was hoping we would do is to push the acting and the animation forward. Technically, Leica had pushed the medium 10, 15 years into the future with rays and substitution and printing and all that. And I said, well, but the acting, it's still pantomime for me. It's still this sassy, hip, urban, everybody's cool attitudes, and it's almost like an emoji language. You recognize the arch eyebrow, or the pointed finger. Every fucking character, the same character with a slightly different design. And we agreed we would make them feel and think. And we went for, we were talking about it on, they were able, some of them I started on Troll Hunters, we started to animate failed acts, meaning not everything is done the first time, closing a door, picking up a cup. It takes 6 or 7 movements more in real life than in animation. You never just sit down. In animation, people just sit down. Make them then go back. Unnecessary gestures at 24 frames a second. When you see the movie again, you'll start noticing them. We decided animation simulates emotion and exaggerates movement. Animation is too fucking animated for me. So we said, can we go to quiet moments? Can we have a scene that is just a father and a son on a bench having a chat? They're not hyperactive, the camera is not sassy and fun, none of that. Or 2 kids having a talk from one bed to the other, or the quiet moments between the cricket and Pinocchio. And then you really almost lean forward to see every micro gesture on the face. Another thing, don't look at each other on the eye, which in real life we don't do. Avoid, give, don't do, etc. And we kept saying animate, which means give an anima, a soul, to the character. Don't move the character. And we repeated about 35 shots or so, because we would say that character is moving, but it's not alive. There's a big, big difference, and our hope was to push this as further. Like one of my favorite moments of animation, there's a couple, when Geppetto wakes up after the drunken stupor, and he slides on the step, and he makes a bunch of failed acts until he gets to the table. And the one that you will remember clearly, when he enters the empty amphitheater, and he stumbles upon a balloon, and gets tangled and fights because he's angry. That looks like an actor doing an improv, but it's an actor doing an improv fully rigged at 24 frames a second. And people don't do it not only because of economy of movement, and because it costs man hours to animate like that. But I think we were seeking life. In this movie, we were seeking life in the animation, not the simulation of life. We wanted you to feel for these characters they were actors. And we said to the animators, we will credit you as actors in the final film, and they're credited right next to the cast, which is not and we promised that nobody would fuck with this movie. No studio notes, no fucking previews where people say, and we kept it. So, I worked with them for about 8 years on Tales of Arcadia, and the 3 series and the feature, and we didn't get a single note. Wow. So I was happy. And I normally, when I interact with a studio, I say, don't send any notes. We'll have a coffee and we'll talk. And if I remember anything, it was a good note. And we were really, but here's the deal. everybody talks with this rhetorical figure on Netflix. What if people watch Lawrence of Arabia in their iPhone? Yeah, really? If you're gonna watch Lawrence of Arabia, you already don't want to watch it on your iPhone. People may watch TV. But nobody talks about how they finance really interesting shit that all the studios said no to.
Yes.
Including this. I mean, or Wendell and Wild.
Yeah.
You know, or Oni, the animated series that is on Netflix right now, which is amazing. And so we don't talk about them as an alternative. Everybody said no to this movie.
Wow.
Everybody. They would say, we had a meeting where the phone call was, Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio, we're in. We don't even need to meet. I said, no, I think we should meet. I met and I said, it happens during the rise of Mussolini and it's about death. and every time I would say, it's not for kids, but kids can watch it if their parents talk to them. You know? And it's very important because in North America, animation is stunted into being forced to be a genre for kids, and it isn't. It's a goddamn medium for art and film at its fullest. Everybody said no. We were on the verge of the precipice, I won't detail, but we were about to sell organs for experimentation. And we were very close to closing a deal that was going to be really nuts. And I said, you know what, let me pitch it on Netflix, because we have it. And they said yes in the room exactly that day.
Wow.
So, you know, it was and throughout the entire process, we were left alone.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. You don't hear that a lot. One of the things you kind of talked about a little bit, but I want to hear you talk about it, and kind of everyone. There's such a wonderful feeling of melancholy about so much of this film, and I wonder, what your thoughts about that are. Is that one of the things that,
Yeah, I mean,
Because it is a way to hold on to life. You know, there's a great poem by Jaime Salinas, a Mexican poet, that says, all of my life a voice has whispered softly in my ear, live, 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 it was death. And I know this sounds too Mexican for some. But in reality, why do we spend our life trying to not reconcile that we live in a paradoxical world? That not everything is good or bad. The world is horrible and beautiful at the same time. We're all good and bad at the same time. And the childish notion that these two things are irreconcilable, when in nature, the universe encompasses everything. Your loss, your joy, your grief, everything. Why can we not embark on our, by that? And that's Patrick is another melancholy motherfucker.
Patrick, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, life. You think you're gonna wake up tomorrow, you think, I'll talk to so-and-so tomorrow, I'll call them in a week. And it really is, that's why when people say, it's a waste of time to be mean, or to waste your life hating someone. It's really great to spend it trying to love and put light. This movie for me is light and love. So darkness, no, you can only achieve darkness if there is no light. And this movie is full of it. Full of it. Alexander is the melancholic Frenchman.
speaking of full of it,
If you really think about the family movies that get made at an industrial scale, and they said, oh, it's for kids. It's not for kids. They make them for the worst type of parent. They don't make them for the kids. Because as a kid, you process the whole world. As a kid, you know who's lying, who's terrible, and you know it instinctively. And when the world of storytelling lies to you, you know there's either you are disoriented or you feel that you are the anomaly, that you are the weird one. And it's in both cases incredibly destructive for kids. If you give kids the tools to have this discussion, look, you're gonna have a chat with your kid about death, whether his fucking hamster dies or you see this movie. There's no other way that, why did Peanut go away in the garden? That's much Pinocchio, hurry! But you have to talk about life. What are you gonna, you cannot child-proof the goddamn world. You can't. Every electrical outlet in the world is ready for the kid to stick the fork. If you don't talk with them about it, then you're not preparing them for life. So I think, the other day I was at a Q&A with Quentin Tarantino, and he said the scariest, most violent movie he ever saw was Bambi. And I kind of agree. It's the only time that I've ever said to my parents, please take me away. Go back home.
Well, guys, we could talk all